Everyone wants to leave a legacy of positivity in the world around them. Whether you are a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, a nonprofit executive director, or even a soon-to-be entrepreneur, one fact is always true. The easiest and most effective way to catalyze change in the world around you is through commerce and through business. But how do you do it? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Changemakers Collective, a place where people can come and get educated and encouraged and empowered to be the impact agent in the world around them. Brought to you by Silverback Ventures, Steph Thomas and Scott Woods have over 50 years combined experience helping companies and owners amplify the voice and multiply the impact of purpose-driven businesses. Join us each week as we discuss what it means to live a life of purpose on purpose.
Welcome back. This is the Changemaker Collective with Silverback Ventures. We have Kristen, our wonderful
digital marketing professional.
That is who she is, and her company is
Novice Studios.
Gosh, we love you, Kristen. Seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's all about the love.
So tell us about Novice Studios.
Novice Studios used to be a podcast production company, and now we are a marketing agency first and a podcast production company second. That's something that came through in our prepping for Everest session, which we're going to get into today. But we mainly work with podcasters, but we have been niching into businesses that are using a podcast to further their marketing and sales goals. And so we're branching out more into what can we do outside of the podcast production? What are the next steps in the funnel? How can we help them with their overall marketing strategy, content strategy? And so how do we charge accordingly to that? And what do those packages look like in comparison to what they've been in the past, which has been very straightforward podcast production?
You know, Kristen, I want to just say that, man, that's really your secret sauce. So a lot of times people are looking for someone to help them with their podcast. But, man, that underlying strategic plan that you do, hey, did you know if, seriously, secret sauce. Kudos to you on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, because at the minute we engaged you to help us with our podcast, I don't know how many times we said, yeah, this is not a podcast production company at all. It is so much more than that. And getting you to believe that was hard, right? I mean, that was a transition that was a real deal.
I think this is the thing. This is what I observed. You did it so naturally.
Yeah,
you didn't realize it was a separate thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It was a superpower that you didn't even realize you had.
Yes, that's where having a third party to come in and give another perspective. It's hard to ask people who are, just your usual clients, like, what else would you want? They don't know. They're thinking about all the tasks that they have to do in their business that may or may not be related to marketing and sales. But you guys as business consultants could say, there's something more to what you are trying to do here. And I'm asking you questions that are not the questions you would ask a podcast producer, but the questions you would ask a fractional CMO. And so when you guys started using that language with me, I was like, that is a totally different hat than the one that I'm used to wearing. But to your point, I was doing it already for my clients. I just didn't realize it.
When did your business start?
In 2020, July 2020. So almost 5 years.
During the COVID.
During pandemic, yes. I quit my job. I had one client that I charged $450 for like 3 full service video projects.
Aww.
And yes.
So you basically paid
$5,000 getting it done, but yes.
Exactly. And so I wasn't sure how I was going to get clients, but the more people I had conversations with, the more work was coming in the door. And so.
Okay, pause. Why? And this goes back to I'm so excited to go through this with you in this forum, because having now gone through the prepping for Everest and the kind of business overview, you start to recognize you were just doing it. And for you to say people were just calling me, clearly you were doing the things that people recognize, like, I can't get this from everybody else. So what do you think are your differentiators in the marketplace that you don't see from every other podcast producer out there?
I think part of it is being able to see the big picture vision and strategy that the clients have and seeing where the podcast and video production is going to slot into that, instead of just just tell me where to be and I'll be there. We started very early in the business. We got our first big corporate client, and I told them, bring me to your marketing meetings. I want to be a part of those conversations. I want to hear what your overall goals are. And to them, that was a way different experience than what they were having with their previous videographer. But also on set, I take my work very seriously, but I do try to keep a very laid back set and a very fun vibe to the function. And that was also different than what they were used to. So they had these really, really fun hosts of their shows, but then the videographer would be so serious, they wouldn't feel like they could really be themselves. And so I was able to like come in and give a different way of doing that. And so I didn't think that I could get jobs based on my personality. This other videographer was incredible. He was a very talented videographer, did really, really good work. But through my personality, I was able to beat him out for the role, basically, for that company. And so I was like, okay, maybe there's something to just who I am as a person and my personality. And that is absolutely a skill and a key differentiator. And I didn't really give myself enough credit for that in the beginning.
That's good realization, too.
It really is. But from, being on this side of the camera versus your side of the camera, it is very relaxed. The atmosphere is non-threatening, and if I want to be silly that day, I can be silly and you roll with it.
Yes.
And if I want to be serious, then you roll with that too. So that's good.
Well, and it creates a disarming atmosphere where the clientele are being authentic and really trying to get across their message. And there are things, even in our interactions, where you'll be like, okay, you need to really talk about that, because that resonates. Whatever point it was may seem mundane to us because we're doing it every day. You're like, no. You need to spend an entire episode talking about that one thing. So you were helping us market our Prepping for Everest service. What about it made you go,
I need to do
maybe
that.
I need to do that?
Because that was literally what happened.
Yeah.
You were like, would you let me go through that? And we were like, yes, we will.
Yes, I think we started working together with you guys being my clients when I was 4 years into my business. And I think you guys did see, she's got potential, she's good at what she does. But pretty early on, I think you guys started to see some of the holes in my business, which was, I could tell she's over capacity. I can tell that she's got all these great ideas, but not a lot of time to implement them. And we were doing really well with managing the day-to-day podcast production. So like the daily and weekly podcasts that are going out, those were all fine. But anything outside of that just felt impossible. And so as you guys were explaining this Prepping for Everest in my head, I'm like, oh, it's just for nonprofits. It's just for people that are looking for funding. But then we started getting into the details.
It was women owned as well. Like you were only really focused on women.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying Prepping for Everest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was just for nonprofits. And even though I know that you guys work for for-profit companies, but I also felt like maybe I wasn't established enough to go through the Prepping for Everest, because a lot of the companies you work with are pretty established. And then it was like, well, how do you're setting these goals, but do you even know where you're trying to go with these goals? And the goals were like double my revenue and blah, 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 which are fine goals, but why? Like, what was the reason? If, like, I'm telling my husband, okay, I'm going to double my revenue this year. He's like, does that mean doubling the nights and weekends you're working? Or what does that mean?
Oh, Kristen, that's a very good point, because you and I, leading up to Prepping for Everest, I was asking you, where's your health meter? How much time are you spending at home? How much time are you spending relaxing? How much time are you pouring into yourself? And you're like, but I've got this business and I'm all in. And I was like, you're going to burn out.
And I was. And I'm somebody who can very much like push way past the point of, so to use kind of an analogy, for my goal when I had my son was to have an unmedicated birth. And my doula, talking me through it, was very supportive of that, obviously. But she said there is always a line between pain and suffering. And suffering is where trauma happens. You can get through pain if you know that what's happening in your body is normal and natural and everything's happening as it's supposed to. But the second something happens that makes you question something's wrong, it turns to suffering. And once you get to suffering, you're in therapy for 6 to 12 months. Okay. And on anxiety medication, which is what happened to me. And so I think, when you have people around you saying, I think you're burning out, like I can see that there are signs here, but you're so in the pushing and you're just like numbing out on the warning signs that your body and your brain are giving you. That's where I was. It wasn't until I actually took a beat to stop where I was like, whoa, I am very, very burnt out. I don't feel motivated. I don't, see the big picture vision. And so that's where it also helped to have this vision casting session to take a beat and a pause. Another symptom was that I was being very self-deprecating and putting myself down a lot. And I would do it in a joking way. And then you guys are the ones who were like, what's that about?
You keep saying that, and we need to unpeel that just a little bit.
Exactly. And so there was some things coming up for me earlier this year of like some past work related incidents in my full-time job before starting my business that made me really question my self-worth. And I thought that I was over them and past them. But some of the decisions that I was having to make now, which is like stepping into that strategist role, stepping into that higher level role, I was hearing that voice in my head of, you're not good enough, you're not seasoned enough, you're not experienced enough. And even though I have you guys telling me, and I trust both of you that I could do this, and I have other clients who I started kind of stepping into that role a little bit, or like dipping my toes into the water, and they were like, you're really good at this, you need to keep doing this. But I still had that voice in my head that was like, no, you're too young, you're not experienced enough.
Kristen, how much do you think the negative tapes running and your burnout feeling one was because of the other? Meaning you were already feeling
imposter
burnt.
syndrome.
I mean, you definitely were saying, I'm over. Yeah. And that is when I noticed that the tapes were running the highest. Where did you put the weight on those two things?
I think it started with just the burnout and being over capacity. And when it felt like I was starting to stumble on the treadmill a little bit and make mistakes, that's when the voice would get really loud. And then that would make me retreat and not want to face the mistakes. And I would have to really sit with them and process internally, which was a good thing. It's good to sit with those feelings, but it made me hide from my clients when, like, in most cases, when you make a mistake, a simple conversation will at least get the ball rolling to a solution, if not fix the whole problem.
I think it's great that you did preparing for Everest. I mean, I think that Scott and I realized, oh my goodness, she could scale really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
But like you said a while ago, your biggest plan was to double your income.
But had no really understanding of why and what the implications that were going to be. And I think that's what's so fun from our perspective is we kind of get to uncover what made you come up with that milestone versus I want it to be X millions of dollars or whatever the case may be. What makes you come up with the milestones? Part of the Prepping for Everest process is really peeling back the why. What are you trying to accomplish? Why are you trying to accomplish it? Because everybody will say, I want to have a successful business. Very few people can actually define what that means. And they also will say, I just want to run my own business and not have a real reason behind why they want to run their own business. Because it's not easy. It is not easy.
Let's
hang out there for a second.
Yeah.
Right? So we ask you to do some prep work, which we do with the clients.
A fun-filled adventure, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And we said, don't do it 5 minutes before you walk in. Go spend some time. Talk us through doing the prep work. How did that feel for you?
It was interesting with the prep work. I feel like there's been little pockets of time here and there where I've sat down and written some of those thoughts or goals or visions down, but I had never taken the time to string them all together. So for the prep work, it was actually a lot of revisiting what I had already kind of written down and sussing through, okay, does this still resonate? Does this not resonate? And to me, double felt like the next big milestone. But then when I filled it out, I was like, I want to have $1 million business. And you guys were like, we love it. And how do you expect to do that with basically being a solopreneur? And so
let me interject here, because that moment I will never forget. I was writing right on that wall over there.
Yes.
That moment when I was like, okay, let's do some math. You would have to work like 72 hours a day in order to make that happen. The look on your face was just like,
Oh, you were so defeated.
yeah, I mean,
I'm totally done.
even to see it written out that,
Your goal was good, just so you know.
Yeah.
yes,
It just wasn't attainable.
You're going
Right.
to far surpass that in a much shorter period of time.
Yes.
I appreciate you saying that. I think so. Really quickly to go back to the why, I have kind of a vision of retiring my husband, which people have mixed feelings about, but I would love for him to be work optional. He's been the full-time provider for our family so that I could pursue this dream. And so I would love for him to have some time to figure out what are his true passions. He's a really, really smart guy. And I can see that he's in a role right now where he's, not doing work that he feels like is contributing super positively to the world. And so I know that's something that's important to him. But there's, of course, that financial security of making sure that we're bringing enough money home. For me, I would also love to be able to justify the number of hours I'm working with a great CEO salary. That would be wonderful. But I would also love to have a team of full-time employees that I could take care of and who can grow with the company and who can be empowered, and I could take a different leadership approach than what has been my experience in the past. And so all of those things were visions that I had for my company. I don't really have a dream of like my son taking over the company one day or anything like that. He's free to do whatever. He wants to do something creative, awesome. If not, that's totally cool. But for me, it's just how can I make an impact with the clients that we have? I feel like most of our clients are creating content that helps people be better versions of themselves, or better business owners, better humans. So I think that it feels really good to help them contribute to something like that. And when I set that $1 million goal, I was thinking, okay, this feels like a level where, I mean, first of all, only 2% of women-owned businesses make it to that $1 million level. And so that feels really cool and impactful to be a part of something like that, especially as a woman of color, and only the second generation to go to college. I think that would be really awesome. But again, thinking about the financial impact that I want to have on even just my team, like I want to be able to pay them not just market value, but above that. And I want to give them benefits, and I want them to be able to go on adventures in the summertime and not worry about, is their job going to be there when they get back? Like basically give them the freedom of entrepreneurship without the stress of how are we making payroll this week?
Super well done.
So, Kristen.
And if you'd like to work at Novice Studios,
yeah.
please hit us up.
Reach out to. Okay, so Kristen, we had a lot of conversation about all of those things that you just outlined prior to you coming into preparing for Everest. So we, Silverback Ventures, Scott and I, are careful to guide you, not lead you. So we didn't want our idea of your company to supersede your idea of
That's
your
well
company.
said.
So we took your pre-work, and like Scott said, we had this board type thing, and we spent a day and peeled back all of your pre-work. Talk to us about how that felt.
If you've ever had a nail or like a crumb get in between your nail bed and your actual nail.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding.
We didn't think this was going this way, folks.
It's not painful for everybody.
I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, it really is. It's exposing not
Pain
just
in the
what's
progress.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
there's-
uncomfortable.
it's uncomfortable,
We
yeah.
put you in a very uncomfortable
because
position.
as the only full-time employee, if you will, of my company, all of this stuff begins and ends with me. So it felt like it was, you guys weren't saying this is your fault, you're doing this wrong, blah, blah, blah. You were not saying that or doing that at all. But to me, I was like, all these problems are there because I've created them in some way, shape, or form, whether it was not having the right vision, not having the right systems and processes, not having the right people in the right spots.
Okay, wait,
And so,
but let's be realistic. You didn't have a bunch of problems, right?
Yeah.
You had a goal and you couldn't figure out how to get there. And you were processing it in your burnt out, overwhelmed stage as I'm failing.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case.
Right. And the good news of, you created this problem means that you could also solve the problem and fix it and make it better.
Yep.
I have a 2.5-year-old now, and every time something breaks, he goes, "It's okay, we can fix it." Because we say that all the time to him. And it's true. There's nothing that you can't walk back. Even if you have to walk it back to its most basic form, you can still improve it. But you don't know what to fix until you know what's broken. And so that was what came out, from that session. One of the things that was the most eye-opening to me was we kind of went through, okay, here's the deliverables that you're doing for your clients. How much does it take for each episode? Blah, blah, blah. We mapped it out. And even for some of those things, you guys were like, wow, that does take a long time. And you calculated that we had the capacity for 3 or 4 podcast retainers a week. And I'm like,
does that equal $1 million?
No, it definitely doesn't equal $1 million. But I was like, that's really interesting because we actually have double that on our client load. And part of me felt very validated by that because some of the working nights and weekends, I was like, am I not managing my time well enough? Could I be faster? Could the team be faster? But it's literally just that there's not enough hours in a day. It's too much work. And so that was where we identified that we had a team capacity issue, me capacity issue, and that things need to be handed off. And then it's what's the right order to do those things in.
So I know that we put some guardrails up and we talked through some, hey, you have to make some hard decisions and it's going to affect people, it's going to affect you, it's going to affect your day-to-day. What was that like for you?
Hearing that or implementing that?
Both.
I think hearing that, I definitely knew, I could see the writing on the wall, literally, as you guys are putting stuff up and we're starting to connect the dots. I'm like, I know what has to happen. And is it going to hurt? I'm not great at setting boundaries. And, I've gotten pushback from clients before about raising prices or setting boundaries around time or delegating to team. And I could, again, look back on those experiences and see what I would do differently and how I would handle things differently. And now it was just, am I willing to have those hard conversations? And some of them were much harder than others. Some of them were, surprisingly easy of, hey, actually, we can do this for you. It's going to be an extra $500 a month, but it's going to help you in XYZ ways. And surprisingly, the client that tends to push back on pricing was like, this sounds great. We need it. Let's do it. And I was like, okay, awesome.
Well, but I
I'm
think,
like, oh my God.
and through the preparing for Everest, we were able, as a team, were able to identify, hey, this is actually an added service.
Yeah.
And this is actually what's already on the table.
Right.
So it's easier to say, hey, this is going to cost $500. Because they could have said no, and you just wouldn't have done that.
Right, exactly.
That portion.
Well, I think just to put a pin there for a second, one of the things that we encounter all the time, especially with newer entrepreneurs, is I am afraid to make the price too high because I'm afraid nobody's going to say yes. And what ends up happening, and we had a whole episode on this. What ends up happening is you price yourself too low, and then you can never raise prices ever. And part of the maturation of your business is being willing to say, I am worth it. The services I offer as a company, not me as a person. I don't derive my value from providing a podcast service. My company charges for a service, and that's price for this service is X. You either are okay to pay that price or you're not okay to pay that price. And if you don't want to pay that price, then you're not my customer. But I can guarantee you, Novice Studios is going to provide you a better service than you're going to get from anybody else. So you kind of get what you pay for. And that was a big change in mindset during that process. One of the things we really work hard to do is to help you as the business owner to change the way you think about your business in terms of the value adds that you're giving, because you're doing a crazy amount of work.
Yes. And so I think that also presented a challenge because I thought, okay, if we wanted to 5x the cost of our monthly retainers, does that mean we have to do 5 times more work? And I was like, how on earth are we going to 5 times our work and then scale a team that can provide that without having 0% profit margins? Like, that's just impossible. And then I was like, well, I mean, just a phone call, like a 60-minute strategy call every month, provides a ton of value, gets everybody on the same page, makes sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing and what's actually driving results for the client. And that's only an extra hour every month to provide that value. And then we could charge this much more money for something like that. And then it was having the confidence to be able to say, and you're going to get a lot of value in that hour.
And it was reframing too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we spent a lot of time, and I know I poked you fairly frequently and not gently around the fact that this is a digital marketing agency that happens to use the platform of podcasting as its primary medium. It's not a podcast production studio that also does digital marketing. Most of the stuff that you do around strategy and around full content presentation across every different platform is stuff that companies are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for, that you were charging a lot less because you were saying, hey, I'm doing the podcast and I'll do this on the side just so I can sell the podcast.
Right.
Out of the preparing for Everest, what were a handful of immediate wins that you saw?
Figuring out who on the team wasn't a good fit anymore, and having the hard conversations to release those team members, realizing that we need to reset some expectations with our remaining team members and future team members. So how do we onboard them more effectively so that they know exactly where things should go, and the little things that were causing inefficiencies or adding to the late nights? That was literally just a conversation, changed everything. And so again, as a leader, I'm like beating myself up because I could have done that so long ago. But I also know that I wasn't in the right headspace because I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know what the point of that. It seemed like so inconsequential. But now that I see where we're going, I'm like, no, we got to get this together. Here's how we're going to do that. And so those were definitely the immediate wins. Realizing, okay, I need to hire this person in order to increase revenue by this much because I can't say yes to more clients until I have team in place. So hiring Kaylin, who's our amazing new digital content creator, just behind the camera right now. And then preparing for that onboarding process. So knowing, okay, it's not going to be an overnight fix. Kaylin's not going to by osmosis know how to do the work for all of our clients. I have to train her and then provide that feedback, which is hard to balance with still getting all the client work done. So it's just a season, though. It's just a temporary pain of progress to get to the other side where there's no more pain.
That's right. That's good, man.
Wrap up.
Come on.
I want to talk about this for 2 more seconds. So we did the preparing for Everest, and then we did follow-ups with you on how to, why, when, what's the boundaries.
Implementation stuff.
How has that felt for you? Because there's a high accountability that we provided for you.
I think it was helpful to have those check-ins to at least know, like, okay, I got to do my homework before I see Scott.
It's called accountability.
I love external accountability. I've paid for, registered dietitians to do, weight loss accountability. I'm just a very external accountability person. I like having a call on a calendar where I can report my progress and I know I want to have something good to report. And so that worked super well for me. And I think having also like your follow-up notes, because it's a little bit of like, not information overload on the day of, but you're so in the weeds of thinking about it. You're not really retaining a ton. Yeah. And so it helped to have those follow-up notes afterwards as well. And then the SMART goals I'm still working on, but I've mapped out some of my Q3 goals. I think I just need to put them into the SMART goals format. And so I know one of them is fully onboarding Kaylin. We're going on a family vacation at the end of September. And so I would love to have...
That was a fantastic look for those of you who are listening. That was a little, you better be ready.
And Kayla was like, okay. I got you.
And so I have like kind of a deadline for myself of this is when I want Kaylin to be fully owning all of the day-to-day podcast tasks. But then also that week is a great opportunity for us to figure out what's still broken. What have I still not taught her? What does she still have questions about when I'm not there? And it's still no pressure. I'm not like going to be off the grid or anything. So I can respond to texts and emails. But I think it'll be a good kind of experiment to see, okay, how, how much, where are there gaps in documentation?
That's
where are
good.
there gaps in just the training process that we can then address when I get back? But that's kind of my internal deadline goal is to have her on board.
Well, and I think
fully
two
on
more
board at that
things. I think part of the prepping for Everest is to prepare yourself to scale, prepare your business to scale. You went through that process and immediately had a couple of clients onboarded.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
That enabled you to say, okay, I'm not the imposter that my previous person was selling, that was imprinted on my brain.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing the thing. And now that I've got the process in place, I can onboard those folks with confidence that we're going to be able to deliver in a real manner. I think that the follow-up calls we had, the way you talked about onboarding clients was different than when you talked about onboarding these clients before.
Yes. I would say the first quarter of this year, anytime I got on a sales call, there was this energy of like, please say no because I don't have time.
Really?
Yeah. And I think that came through. I mean, I was still myself on these phone calls, but I could tell when certain clients just like, we're not going to make the leap for the investment. And I feel that changed the dynamics of the conversation. And I also knew that I didn't have a ton of capacity to take those clients on. And it's really crazy that I brought on Kaylin so that I could take on more clients. And then literally the first week that she was working for me, we closed 2 clients. And I was like, this never happens. I don't know what's going on, but there's something very powerful about putting it out into the universe, where they think the universe is providing, God is providing. Like there's something about calling your shot and saying like, this is the vision I have and this is where we're going. And then when you start to take intentional action of like, okay, I'm going to hire the person, we're going to redo the budget and we'll figure it out and pay for it. But it was worth the leap.
Well, and I would say that as you did the whiteboard, you went from, I don't know, I'm already working till 11 and 12 o'clock and I'm missing, and once you had a plan, that definitely came across in your whole attitude. I saw an immediate
You immediately started working on your business, not in your
Yes.
business. And I think that was a big shift. So this is going to feel some kind of way. I want you to do a little commercial for prepping for Everest. Like, what would you say to other people that are on the fence? Like, hey, I'm too small. Hey, I'm not established. Whatever the case
I'm a
may
solopreneur
be. Yeah.
because that was you.
What would you
a couple
say
weeks
to
ago.
those folks that are kind of like, I don't know if I need to know about any of this stuff?
Okay, hold on. Let me take a moment. I need to get in the zone if I'm doing a performance. If you wait until you hit a certain revenue level or a certain number of team members or a certain number of clients, there are going to be so many things broken because you didn't take the time to build that foundation intentionally. And it's going to take much longer to fix. It's going to be more painful to fix. It's going to be walking things back, especially if you're in a situation where maybe you've overhired or you've taken on a lot of misaligned clients and now you need to phase them out or continue working with them to pay your bills while you bring on more aligned clients. And I feel very fortunate that I was in a situation where I wasn't in a situation where I had overhired, and I still had just contractors. Part of that is some commitment phobia, if you will, about hiring full-time or W-2 employees. But it made it easier to make the shifts that I needed to have those quick wins from that prepping for Everest session. And now I know what is broken, but also what's working and what's what my value proposition is as a company. And so that is going to make those quarterly goals that I'm setting now way more effective because I know where I'm going. I know what needs to be fixed. I'm not just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And so if you feel like you've already tried everything and nothing's worked in the past, so why would doing the same things work again? I think that the prepping for Everest session will help you understand why those things didn't work before and what you need to do differently next time in order to make them effective.
Thank you, Kristen.
Awesome. I appreciate
And
you
Scott and
saying
Steph are the best. I didn't say that. Wait. say that. Scott and Steph are the best. They're really, really great, and they're very positive, but they are truth tellers. They talk about that on the podcast a lot, and they are.
We really are.
Yes, you guys are really truth tellers, and you certainly don't mince words. So even though they're going to help you understand your strengths, they are going to tell you where you need to improve. But again, you can't fix what you don't know is broken. And so having somebody who's going to be direct with you and straight up with you and not just blow smoke and tell you, oh, you're so great, like nothing needs to change, that's not valuable. It's valuable to have people in your corner that are willing to both see your strengths and also tell you where you can get better.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you for saying that. We enjoy thoroughly working with you and working with all our clients because you have every client, we've been blessed with every client we've walked through this process has had the same, like, and we can see it happening real time. And it's a total paradigm shift in their mind. Like, oh, okay. If now that I know where I'm going, if I do this, and this, it's going to make my life so much better. Mm-hmm. And it's so fun to watch happen and to be able to work with amazing people.
Doing amazing things is the greatest gift that we could have as an organization. And we're super, super, super proud to be aligned with Novice Studios and can't wait to see what happens next.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
We'll do a follow-up because I'm always here. Anytime they're recording, I'm right there. So I'll just pop in and give updates.
As we wrap up, we just want to be a support of yours.
Yes.
So, all the show notes, all the good stuff comes from you and your team. And
all the content marketing. Yeah, everything.
So shout out to Novice Studios that, you guys are just super great.
Thank you.
So Silverback Ventures, live a life of purpose on purpose. And make sure to check out our other podcasts, subscribe and like, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Changemakers Collective. If you've enjoyed this episode, please help us grow our community by leaving us a review on Apple Podcast or rating us on Spotify.
You can also find our podcast on YouTube, so you can come and leave us a comment over there as well. If you want support growing your business and scaling your vision, visit us at silverbackventures.org or connect with us on LinkedIn.
Thanks again, and we'll see you on our next episode.